As I get older and I understand business more, and like I said, I went from a short-term survival mode type of hustling to a longer term, and I want a business that I'm proud, that is fulfilling, that makes a big difference in the world. And so it took a few years to really like create this hero brand.
Welcome to The Real Deal, a commercial real estate investing podcast. I'm your host, Aman Shahi. There's a ton going on in the world right now, and much of it impacts real estate investors. The Real Deal podcast will take a look at what's happening and how it influences you as a real estate investor. Each episode is a 20-minute segment dedicated to distilling the day's most important news, so you can stay up to date on what's going on in the world and how it might affect the commercial real estate market.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cashflow Capitalist Show. Today we have a very special guest. His name is Tim Mai. Hey Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey Aman, good. Thanks for having me. Excited.
Me too. So Tim, in 30 seconds, give us your introduction, who you are.
Yeah, so I'll give the short version. So I was originally from Vietnam. I came here as an immigrant when I was 12 years old. My older brother was 19. We had to escape out of Vietnam. That's a whole long story there, but we came here as just the two of us without our parents, and we used to live in Section 8 housing apartments, and kind of grew up from there. I went to school here. I went to college. I dropped out of college toward the end because I got an IT job offer in Dallas. So I live in Houston. So I moved to Dallas for that IT job. Worked there for a couple of years, and then the .com bust came, right? The .com came, and then that bust came. And then the company went belly up. I got laid off. And so I had to look for something else to do. So I decided to get into real estate investing because I heard that over 80% of real estate investors self-made millionaires invest in real estate. So I was like, oh, if that's what they do, I need to do that. So I got to real estate investing. That's 21 years ago. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've been in real estate for 21 years now. Most of that was in single family home, and also in land. I still do a lot of land flipping and land investing, land entitlement. And then a little bit over a year ago, is when I got into this real estate syndication space. And now that I'm here, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe all of the limiting beliefs that I had around what it takes to do multifamily and commercial real estate that had me, stuck to my comfort zone of single family homes. And yeah, it's one of those things where we always wish like we could have gotten into it earlier, but here I am. So yeah, and I live in Houston with my beautiful wife. We've been together since high school, and we have two teenage boys, 16 and 19.
And that's what I call American dream.
Yes.
So if I ask you, how did your early experience of your life shape the perspective of the life, and how that drive you to pursue the American dream?
Yeah, definitely. Great question. And it's so interesting. But yeah, so growing up, number one, growing up in Vietnam, Vietnam is a very entrepreneurial country. We are a very, hustle, bustle type of country. So I think that's sort of where I got my entrepreneurial bug. And then being here, at the age of 12, my brother's 19, we were kind of forced to build something. And so I learned entrepreneurship very early on. In high school, I used to go to those garage sales where they sell used computer parts, buy used computer parts, put them, build computers, resell computers. In college, I bought used cars, fix them up, resell them. And then I got an IT job from there. But all of that sort of need to figure out how to survive. I mean, I can, going back to my childhood, there were countless days that I come home from middle school, open up a refrigerator, and there's literally nothing but a bottle of tap water, like literally. And so yeah, like my brother and I really had to learn to survive, and so we've done all kinds of stuff and some very stupid stuff, including dealing drugs.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And
that.
yeah, just like whatever we could to survive. And yeah, so that led me into my whole journey as an
Yep.
entrepreneur, and like just always out there hustling it, right? But it also, one of the things that it also did for me growing up in that environment is that it had me think very short term. Like, how do I survive the next day, the next month, right? And so I find myself, at the beginning of my entrepreneurship journey, looking at things from a very short term perspective, versus now that I've been in this industry for so long, like now I can see a much longer term. But yeah, that's it's so interesting how that works out. But yeah, I'm constantly learning new things, especially ever since I've been into this syndication industry. And as you know, I interview a top syndicator every week, and every week that I interview someone, it just like it stretches my mind so much, of what is possible, right?
And you always get to learn something from them too.
100%, 100%. I learned a ton from them, and it expanded my mind so much. I have, since I've been in this syndication space for a little bit over a year now, my mind has been so stretched, like way, like, yeah, the things that I'm doing now, that 12-year-old boy that came to the US could never possibly imagine he would be doing right now. you know?
Yeah, that's something that you said that's really great. I want to make a comment. Hard times make strong men,
Yep.
and strong men make great time. Great time make weak men. Weak men bring hard times. So, if I ask you, how old were you when you started in real estate? What was your first transaction like?
Yeah, so that was 2002. So I was 27 years old. No, not 20. Is it 27? Yeah, 27. 27 years old. My very first deal. Um, I um, I was in a bookstore. Back then, we actually go to the bookstore. We don't just order stuff on Amazon. So I would go to the bookstore and read in the book in the bookstore. So I didn't have to buy the book. I didn't have much money at that time. So one day I was reading a book. It was on single family home lease option, creative financing stuff. But on chapter 3 of the book, it says, if you want to do a deal in the next 30 days, go put out 100 bended signs. And that's all I needed to hear. And then I closed the book, put it back on the shelf, went out there. I was like, the book says 100, but I want to make sure I get this done. So I told my now wife, back then was just my girlfriend, but I told my girlfriend, hey, let's go put out 200 signs. And yeah, so we put out 200 signs. Um, and on that was on a Thursday, and then we went and attended a 3-day weekend seminar that Robert Allen's was putting on. And then on Monday morning, a seller called me 7 a.m. I was still sleeping, so she didn't even leave a message. So I call her back, play phone tag a little bit. Long story short, I was able to get her on the phone, and she told me about this property, which wasn't too far from me. She wanted $60,000 for this property, and at that seminar, I had just learned to negotiate. So I said, is that the best you can do? And I just shut up. And she's like, well, the best I can do is 55,000. And
Silent treatment.
yeah, but that one little, phrase like made me an extra $5,000, right? So when she said 55,000, I mean, I was so excited inside because I know that was a deal. It was already a good deal at 60,000, but even better at 55. So I bought that property, and talk about capital raising. So that particular deal, I used my sister as my private lender on that deal. I had learned about hard money lenders and private lenders, and hard money lenders, they were charging like 12% plus 3 points or some numbers like that at that time. And I knew my sister had some money in CDs. I was like, look, you have money sitting in CDs that's earning you 1%. How about this? I'll give you triple that. I'll give you 3%.
3%.
And so she
Oh
loaned me
god.
the money as a private lender. So I bought that property, fixed it up, resold it, netted like a little bit over $50,000 on that deal. And now I was like, oh, and now I didn't tell you before that. Before that, I was door knocking on pre foreclosures for 6 months and got 0 deals.
So you also mentioned like you acquired and sold almost like $50 million of the deals. And how
Yeah.
what did you learn from that? Was it before syndication or after syndication?
That was before syndications. I'm in a number of syndications deal now, but yeah, I've done a lot in the single family home. I was a high volume wholesaler flipper, and I also did some bigger deals as well. Like I have some big land deals, and so yeah, I've one of the skill sets that I've learned is marketing. So I've gotten really good. If I look at all the things that we do as entrepreneurs, and if I have to pick like just one thing that I am the best at out of all the things that we have to do, it would be marketing. Yeah, so I just did a lot of marketing. I was like one of the first We Buy Houses guys on TV here in Houston. This
Oh,
is
wow.
2003. So
When we
so
don't
yeah,
have Instagram.
yeah, I was one of the first guys that did internet marketing back in those days. And yeah, and so yeah, I just did a lot of marketing, and I've always understand the importance of marketing. And yeah, so that's a major factor to the volume I've done.
Yeah. The other day I saw this video. The guy was like, it's okay if you cannot be a great salesman, but try to be a great marketer. That can bring you a lot many leads. And from there you can close the deals.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to do both for sure.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
if you can't close, you're not going to be able to to have enough marketing dollars. You got to
Yeah.
be able to make back your marketing dollars. But yes, for sure,
Yeah.
if you're good at marketing, you can outsource the sales part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great skill that you can learn to market, how you can market yourself. Your product is later, then you first have to market yourself.
Right.
So, and how do you evaluate these deals like in syndication right now? So if you're doing actively, how are you evaluating those deals?
Well, so I have my team that does all the. I mean, I can do basic, underwriting, but I don't go. My personality, I am not a detailed type personality, and so I build a team around me, right? That can get into the T12 and the expense reports and all of that stuff to do a deeper underwriting. But yeah, I just take a quick look at the at the deal. Does it look like something that fits our buy box? If it does, it gets it gets delegated over to one of my team members and go deeper. And then from there, yeah, we decide whether or not we'll take on that deal.
And do you are you only doing 506B and 506Cs or
Yeah,
both of them?
B's and C's, mostly multifamily, but we also venture in, like I have a deal right now. It's a new development for a luxury flex space here in the Houston area. So I'm whenever outside of Houston, I prefer just single family. Within Houston, because I live here, I can be more flexible into the asset type because I can drive it. I can really I know a lot of things about the different areas, and so I can be more flexible with that.
Because you know the market.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, that's why like everybody needs to first study the market before investing. You can't just be like, oh, people are moving there and I'm just gonna go there. No. You need to understand the zip codes. And where do you find investors for capital raising to invest in your deal?
Yeah, the one place that most people miss is right here in your phone book. It's right here on your phone. For most of us as adults, and I do this with young people too. I teach a lot of teenagers how to invest in real estate. Um, but yeah, your phone is the first place you want to go to. There's as an adult, as an adult, if you reach out to everyone on your phone, there's an absolute minimum is at least 1 million, but easily 10 million or more. Easily. That's sitting on your phone. That's just like the example of my sister that I mentioned, right? You know how many people that in your life that might have money in CDs, in savings account, in money market account, in IRAs, in 401ks that are just sitting there. They're not even investing it, right? And so yeah, there's a ton. So I always recommend start there, and I recommend doing. I learned this from Russell Brunson about creating your Dream 100 list. So from your phone, identify the top 100 people, people that have that are busy professionals. They make good money, successful entrepreneurs, business owners, and people that are well connected, right? Because even if they don't have the money, they might be able to connect you with someone who does. All right. So yeah, so like creating all like those type of people and then reach out to them. So I would say start there before you get any more fancy than that. But yeah, there's of course there's social media now. I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn and Facebook. When it comes to capital raising for syndication, what I've learned is that every single person who gets into your war is an important person that you want to get to know, because if they whether it's either they will invest with you or they'll refer you to someone that will invest with you.
And since I got into real estate, I realized people have zero knowledge about real estate. They don't even know what is FHA is.
Yep.
Have you experienced something like that? And like, how did you even explain things to them that you can make more money while investing in real estate, even if you don't have any knowledge, even if you don't want to
Right.
do any work?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So yeah, I quickly just explained to them, hey, you might heard of rental properties, right? You might even be living in one. That someone owns a rental property, they are called an active investor, active landlord. There's another type of investing in real estate that most people don't know about called passive investing as a limited partner. And as an active landlord, you have to know something. You have to know how to buy the property, right? You have to know how to manage it. But as a passive investor, as a limited partner, you don't have to know any of that stuff, because there's a active general partner that is knowledgeable and runs the project. And so that's a quick way of how I explain to them. So I always relate to something that they might understand, because everybody understand that they rent somewhere. And so yeah, that's how I explain it to them.
That's good. And I want to ask you, like, you're wearing a T-shirt like Hero. Like, what's Hero?
Yeah, so Hero's my brand, and it's an acronym. It stands for Heart-Centered Entrepreneurs Enriching Others.
Oh, nice.
Um,
That's great.
yeah,
That's really
I
cool.
I've always loved the whole hero theme and superheroes. And so when I thought greatly about like what is the brand that I want that communicates my core values, my vision for what I want my companies to do. And so yeah, so we're out here not just see in my younger days. I was in business just to make a buck. That's it. I was very clear. I'm in business to make money. End of story. I would, the whole idea of, business for impact, business to make a difference. That's like, who cares? in my younger days. But as I
Yeah.
get, as I get older and I understand business more, and like I said, I went from a short-term survival mode type of, hustling to a longer term. And I want a business that I'm proud, that is fulfilling, that makes a big difference in the world. And so it took a few years to really like create this hero brand. But yeah.
And I think age 30 is the milestone. After that, your life start changing. Because I'm 30, after I sleep at 10:30, like I'm not going anywhere. So I'm like, I'm my life perspective totally changed after I hit 30. I'm like, no parties, no nothing. You gotta be more serious. You wanna build a family, you wanna build a life, a wealth, generational
Yep.
wealth. It takes a lot of work.
Yep. Yep. It
And
does.
and what is Hero Wealth Partners?
So Hero Wealth. So under the, are you familiar with Richard Branson and
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
Virgin brand, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Virgin is the main sort of parent company, and then
Yeah.
underneath Virgin, you have Virgin Records, Virgin Airlines, Virgin
Mm.
Galactic, all of that.
Yeah.
So I am modeling after Richard Branson. So Hero is the parent company.
Hmm.
And then underneath Hero, we have Wealth Partners, which is the syndication company. We have Wealth Fund, which is
Hmm.
our fund.
Hmm.
A little bit different from
Yeah.
syndications, but
Hmm.
yeah, that's what it is. And and so with the Hero Wealth Partner, Hero Wealth Fund, we source deals, and we also partner with top operators, and then
Hmm.
we bring on passive investors to partner with us to invest alongside with us into these deals.
You mind me explaining what is a fund and what is Hero Fund? How is different?
Yeah. So a syndication is when you invest into one property at a time. So
Yeah.
yeah. So let's say uh, let's say you, Aman, you're buying a 100-unit multifamily,
Yeah.
and so you and I are going to partner up with this one deal, and we're going to raise money for this one deal. That's a syndication.
Yep.
A fund allows you to have a more diversification. So in our Hero Wealth Fund, as an example, it's a fund that's going to invest in 10 across 10 different assets. They're all multifamily assets, but they're different assets, and so it gives us some level of diversifications.
Hmm.
And for us, not only do we diverse across assets, but we also diverse across operators.
Yep.
And so it's a fund of funds in the sense that the fund identified the operator, the assets that it's going to invest into, and let's say, and this out of I'm just using this as an example. Let's say it's a $10 million fund. Well, I just be our fund is it's a $10 million fund, and we're planning to invest um, uh, 2.5 million to each operator, and that could mean multiple properties, but to each operator. So we're gonna take on 4 operators. We're gonna invest, and then from there, depending on how many properties. So like one that we're looking at right now, one operator had 3 deals
Hmm.
underneath this thing. So that's how a fund is different.
So you're doing fund to fund as well, fund to syndication as well.
For the Hero Wealth Partners, that is just syndications, not a fund to syndications. But Hero Wealth Fund is a fund to funds. Yes.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do you ensure stable income for your investors who's come in investing in your deal? Because
Yeah.
if you are
So
go for it.
yeah. So the whole vetting process. So we coming in, we know that there's a lot of different assets in real estate that you can
Yeah.
invest in as a passive investor.
Yeah.
There's assets that are already cash flowing. So a lot of Class A, Class B assets already cash flowing, and then there's on the other extreme could be a brand new construction, right, where there's no cash flow, and you just have to bank on appreciation for that. And so for our fund, we focus in on the properties that are already performing very light value add, so that way coming into the deal you can get cash flow very early on. within the first no more than 6 months. And then and so we for our fund we focus a lot on that type of property.
And how do you evaluate the risk?
Yeah, we go through 50 checkpoints,
Mhm.
due diligence, to evaluate. So yeah, so we vet everything from the team, right, the operators, the team, to the market, down to the deal level. And so yeah, we look at all of that. And
Mhm.
so we want, like I said, we want good properties in good areas that's already cash flowing. We want to minimize our risk as much as possible.
Mhm.
A lot of our investors, uh, they're more at the level in their life where they want to take on less risk.
Mhm.
They rather make a decent return, but a safer deal than trying to make a bigger return on a more riskier deal.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so we look for properties and that matches that risk criteria.
Got it. Got it. And can you share any example f- where you had a successful syndication or anything, and something went wrong, and what did you do to fix it?
Yeah. So I so fortunate that the deals that I'm in, they're good. But right now, in the marketplace right now, so I'll just speak for the marketplace. There are all kinds of deals that have been going wrong, and
Yeah.
as I interview a lot of people, and
Mhm.
I found that the best operators that able to uh, navigate through the challenges
Yeah.
are the ones that roll up their sleeves and go in there and fix it. Like go in there
Yeah.
and actively, I have a friend here in the Houston area where one of his properties, they yeah, they it was all kinds of drugs and stuff, that was going on. So they have to go in. They move a couple police officers into the building for free just to stay
Mhm.
there temporarily until they get rid of all these things. But yeah, they that's just an example of how someone goes into the deal and like get actively involved day to day, day by day. In some cases, some of these guys would just move into the building, so for like a few weeks, so they can
Mhm.
sort out whatever they need to sort out. But those are the type of operators that we love to work with, that they don't mind getting in.
Mhm. Yeah.
They're not, that the ego is not like crazy high where they're like, oh, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
um,
And as we're seeing in the market, in some places rents are going down, in some places rents are going up. And the current market trend you're seeing, so how do you handle the fluctuation in your properties or any kind of property management at that time? Because rents are stable, or they're going down, or they're going up. What are you seeing, and how are you handling them?
right. Yeah. So in my market here in Houston, it's pretty stable. I mean, Houston is not one of those market that have crazy swing. We're pretty consistent market. But yeah, I mean, we handle that by, before we even get into the deal to begin with, and making sure that our underwriting is conservative, right? So here in Houston, rent increase of 3% is normal, is like the average. And so we don't go crazy and expect to do a 5% rent increase or a 10% rent increase, right? So we make sure that we're conservative at the beginning before we buy the property. Uh, so we're not dealing with that as much, but we do deal with other things here in Houston. So property taxes has gone crazy high in the last few years here in Houston. Insurance has gone really high in the last few
That's
years here
everywhere.
in
Yeah.
Houston. Yeah, and and so yeah, so we good thing is we do have reserves to cover for for these things, but it does eat into our profit quite a bit. And yeah, so we just hang in there and like keep implementing our business model, right? It's not some of the deals, anyways, is not as profitable as we had first anticipated when the market was still good, and and things, the interest rate hasn't increased, and taxes and insurance hasn't increased. But because we bought it right to begin with, because of our due diligence, our underwriting, our conservative underwriting. So now we're just kind of like um, riding this out in a way, right? And and riding out while the market stabilize more. But yeah,
And as we saw in the recent months, there were some syndicators who foreclosed on almost like $200 million property.
yep,
And
yep. Right here in
what?
Houston. Yep.
Yeah, right in Houston. What would you say to passive investors who want to invest passively, but they don't know how? Because I saw many shady operators too. Before investing,
Yeah.
what would they need to keep that in mind before investing passively?
Yeah, I mean that's a really really important one. Number one, right? Do your due diligence, ask around. So like that particular operator, if you ask around, people, some people have had bad experience with them. So that could be the first sign. And then the second sign is making sure that either you or someone can go see the property in person. Because a lot of times, what you see on the brochure is nothing like what
Yeah.
you might see in person. In the brochure, everything looks good. In person, you go there and you see boarded. Um, some of the units are boarded up and stuff, and so in that, with that particular operator, if all you did was just drive the property, you would have caught plenty of red flags with that operator. And that operator just grew too quick, too fast, too big, too fast. And so yeah, that that's the other thing to be mindful about. And also too, look for operators that have longevity and have gone full cycle. I don't remember how many properties that operator went full cycle on, but not many that he have gone full cycle on. So that's the other thing I would look at. But yeah, driving the property, getting referrals, is I would say those are like the two biggest one.
And can
Yeah.
passive investors do background check on the operators?
No, they can certainly ask. They can certainly
Mm.
ask, and yeah, so I guess the answer is yes, they can, by asking, and if the operator is willing to let you do that, and you can do that, but you can't do it without their permission, because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because depending on what kind of background check that you want, you might even
Mhm,
want to check, get pull their social,
mhm.
put the credit and all of that stuff, right?
Okay, got it, got it.
If you invest a lot of money, yeah, they'll
Mhm.
let you do all of that due diligence.
Yeah,
But if you're just coming in as $100,000 investor, typically, is they might not be willing to give you that a whole lot of information.
yeah. If the slate is clean, they will let you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, how do you keep in contacts and inform your investors?
Yeah, so I mean, we do webinars on a weekly basis. So that's one. We're launching a course right now, where it's a 6-week course that we're
Mhm.
gonna take our passive investor through, every 2 months. So they're constantly, learn about like what's going on in the market. And so we
Mhm.
always find education, to kind of
Education,
summarize
yeah.
it up. Education is our number one way to keep in touch with our investors, nurture that relationship.
Mhm.
And so yeah, weekly webinars, and then rolling out these courses is one of the ways that we do that.
Got it, got it. And what advice would you give to somebody who's starting in real estate?
get in there, and if you if I can do it all over again, I would totally skip that whole single family home stuff and go straight into multifamily syndications, commercial real estate. Yeah, I had a huge limiting beliefs that commercial property is too big for me, it's too complicated, too much money. Single family home is easy. I understand it, but those are all limiting beliefs. And so I would say, if you can skip the single family, go straight into investing into syndications, whether as an active investor or as a passive. I like to start as a passive first because I get to learn from the active operator, and I get to like learn behind, instead of, and I'm not saying this against coaching program necessarily, but the money that a lot of times you pay to get into a coaching program, if you take that money and you invest as a passive investor, make sure that you find people that you trust to invest along. Like, let's say you have a good friend that he's already in syndications, and you're gonna, and he's also gonna be investing into that deal, and you invest alongside with him. It allows you to learn the business from inside, right? That's a much better use for your money. And so, yeah, I do recommend start out passively, learn from the inside, and then when you learn, when you're ready to lead your own deal as an active, by then, yeah, you have a lot more experience and you have a lot more contacts also.
Yeah. You won't believe it. I just had that thing in mind when I asked you the question. I'm like, rather than buying the coaching program, invest passively. You can ask more questions.
Yep.
And how do you stay updated and keep learning in this crazy market?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I've been doing this for a long time, but yeah, I always find things to expand my mind out. I'm YouTube is my favorite learning tool, and so I watch tons of YouTube videos. Yeah, and then I do a lot of audiobooks as well. And I get on a lot of webinars, podcasts, um, and yeah, just really just like continue learning, learning your craft, right? And I also host my own podcast, so I interview others, so I learn a ton through those interviews. Oh my gosh, I probably learn more than the listeners learn.
Do you mind mentioning the name of your podcast?
Yeah, so name my podcast is the Hero Capital Raising Party.
Nice.
And yeah, we have a lot of fun on our show. Yep.
And what are your long term goals for your personal and professional life?
Great question. Yeah, so s- this I definitely, want to grow my commercial real estate here, but the big reason why I want to grow this commercial real estate is to show my kids. Right, I have two boys, 16 and 19. I want to show them what's possible. Right, I want to show them. So, like my 19-year-old, I told him, it's like, dude, don't even look at single family homes. Let me like go straight into commercial. Let me teach you how it works. Um, and so, yeah, I wanna show like my kids, my nieces, nephews, that there's an like the path to wealth, right? And there's an easier path and can get you there. In terms of my so that's sort of personal, I guess. Just making sure the next generation are well equipped, that they have the education that I didn't have when I was their age, when I was young, hustling it. And yeah, and then business wise, I want to get to $1 billion asset under management. I'm building a network of syndicators, capital raisers, where we work collaboratively as a community to be able to take down bigger deals. Yeah, and all of us succeed together faster.
That's great. That's really great. And how do you give back to the society?
Yeah, so one of my favorite ways to give back is to teach young people. So I a couple years ago, Robert Allen, who was my mentor in the real estate side 21 years ago, and my friend Javier Hinojo, the three of us got together and we launched a program called the Teen Millionaire Challenge. And the program is to teach young people ages 16 to 20 years old real estate investing, syndications, multifamily, commercial real estate, and so we piloted it 2 years ago, and now we're relaunching it this year. Actually, it's we're starting it here in August, so in a couple more weeks, and this year we let the some of the teens from the last program to be the leaders of this year's program. So they take what they learned and they now they have a better grasp of what would have helped them better, how they would structure it. So now they're the one designing this year's program. And we're also creating a Reg CF fund, which is a crowdfunding fund, where these teens can invest into the fund for as little as $500.
Oh, nice.
And we take that money and we invest into syndications.
So that's going to be, I think, Reg A fund, right?
No, it's a Reg CF. So yeah. Reg A is a lot more expensive. It costs like $100,000 to set up, but a Reg CF generally costs you about $15,000, about $15,000.
Got it.
So it's a lot less, but it limits you to max out is $5 million a year, versus Reg A is at $75 million.
Got it.
Yeah,
that makes sense. And before we wrap this up, I want to ask you like two more questions.
Yeah.
So, what is your morning routine as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I'm a morning person, and I love. That's where I do all of my learning is in the morning, first thing in the morning. So yeah, that's the first thing I do before anything else. And then and then I take my kids to school, and then and then go home, exercise, get ready for the day. So that's kind of my morning routine, and I've been doing that for as long as I can remember. Yeah.
And what book do you recommend to somebody, either for personality development or mindset or real estate? What would you recommend? Any book?
Right. Yeah. I mean, even though this book has been mentioned a lot, I'm sure a lot of people recommend it, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but it really is that fundamental, give you that entrepreneur mindset shift. So I do recommend that book. I also love the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. That's also a very good book about, financing and being a private lender and all. Yeah. And so I recommend those two books, and then also like How to Win Friends and Influence Others. So those are the three books that we're teaching our teens to do.
Yeah.
Here's another book. This book, my friend Javier Hinojo, who started the Teen Millionaire Challenge with me, and I don't remember the book name, but it's about this. It's about a young prince that fought dragons. And dragon was a metaphor for all the big things that we think we couldn't do. And his dad told him, it's like, don't worry, the dragons are really not big. They're very small. But, until you actually go and see the dragon, you don't know that, right? Until you face your fear and go and actually deal with that, you don't know that it's small. That's another book that we share with the teens that are in the program.
I'll search it. And if today is the last day on this planet, what message do you want to give to the world?
Oh my gosh, last day on the planet.
Yes. Anything, any kind of message.
Yes. I mean, just love those around you, right? Like, I think that as human being, like, if we strip away all of our wealth, everything, all the material things in the world, what's the only thing left is the relationships with those around us, right?
Yeah.
And so, and those relationships are all built on love. And so, just love yourself too. Like, that's something that I been practicing a lot these days, which I haven't been doing for a long time. But so one thing that I play a game with myself. You know how we all have negative thoughts, right? And then we have these intentional, like, conscious thoughts that we do. So every time my intentional thought wins over my negative thought, I kind of celebrate. I have a small celebration. It's like, yes, like little things like that I do. But yeah, just love yourself and love others.
Got it. That's really beautiful. And if somebody has to reach out to you, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm the platform that I'm most active on is on Facebook and on LinkedIn. So yeah, just search for Tim Mai, or if you type in Tim Mai real estate. But you can also go timmai.com, which then will link to everything else. So TIMMAI.com, you'll link to everything else I do.
All right. And thank you so much for this great interview. I really loved it. And thank you so much, Tim. And I'll see you another one.
Awesome. Thank you, Aman.
Right.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on The Real Deal, a commercial real estate investing podcast, the show that covers everything to do with multifamily real estate investing to help you become an expert in your real estate ventures. We're here to help you create passive income and financial freedom so that you can achieve what you want whenever you want. We'll catch you next time on The Real Deal.